A tremendous race is going on right now between the Indian youngsters. The race is about reaching 2700. While they might not be thinking much about it, at least we as fans are very closely looking at who's moving up the rating ladder, who's the one who's at the top, and so on. So at some point, we thought that okay, Pragnananda might reach 2700 very soon. Then it was Nihal who had crossed 2650 last year. And then Arjun, who's right now near 2680. But there's this young boy, Gukesh, who is moving up the ranks super quick. Super quick. You can see his rating up there is mentioned 2637. But that's because this tournament which he's playing right now, the first Chessable Sunway Formentera Open that's taking place in Spain, started on 29th of April. So the May list hadn't come yet. As on 1st of May, Gukesh's rating is 2659. And in this tournament, already after 9 rounds, he's gaining 16 ELO points. So he's on 2675. And in the 9th round of the event, he was playing against Sasikiran, the experienced Indian player. And what was interesting is that Sasikiran is playing in the A team of the Olympiad, while Gukesh is going to play in the B team of the Olympiad. So from that angle also, this game was very, very exciting. Let's have a look at this game and also try to understand how much of a fighter Gukesh is. Okay, let's go. Sasikiran opens the game with 1 e4. Gukesh plays his favorite Sicilian. Knight f3, knight c6. And Gukesh wants to go for the Sveshnikov. If you play d4 with him, he will take, knight f6, knight c3, e5. That's how he likes to play. But many people prefer the Rosolimo against him. And Gukesh, according to me, is one of the players who's played the maximum against the Rosolimo, I feel. G6 is how he likes to continue. Castles, bishop g7, c3. And now he puts his knight out in the center. If you play e5, I will go knight d5. It's all common. So the move played was rook e1, defending the pawn. Gukesh castled and white takes the center. Now, it's an important moment here. Whether you want to take on d4 and then play d5. So it can go like this. Take d5, e5 he would play. You would put your knight in the center, and the maybe slight downside of taking is that the knight gets the c3 square now. And as per the engine evaluation, these positions seem to be slightly preferable for white. That's why Gukesh played directly in the center with d5 first. Okay, e5, knight e4. Now the knight cannot come to c3. And this was also the position that was played between Giri and Pragnananda recently in their Oslo Esports Cup. White played the move h3 here. And maybe the more challenging move is bishop e3, like what Anish played against Prag or what Duda played against Carlsen. Bishop takes c6 is also played, but h3 was played by Sasikiran. Now Gukesh took, and now he played his bishop to d7. He played bishop e4, bishop a4. So my question to you is, why is knight c3 not a good move in this position? Try to think and try to come up with an answer. I hope you spotted that these two pieces are facing off against each other and there can be a discovered attack. So the first move is to take, pawn takes, and now knight takes e5. If you take with whatever piece on e5, you will lose the bishop. And if you were to take on d7, I would take back with my knight and have a good position. Or you can even take on f3 here. Queen takes f3 and queen d7, which might well be much better. And black is just winning here. So Sasikiran had to decide what to do about his bishop because knight e5 is a real threat. He could have gone bishop d3, I think, and this might have been the most challenging way to play. I guess what he might have been afraid of was knight b4, attacking the bishop. And now, of course, you don't want to take and play this position because after bishop c6, your light squares are terribly weak. But maybe after knight b4, bishop f1 is the correct move. And here white could have continued playing this position. Maybe like, let's say, rook c8. Then you have knight to c3. And if you take and try to win a pawn in this way, then maybe bishop d2, and already there are some troubles there. But Sasikiran went for bishop a4, moving his bishop back, and he played rook c8, bishop b3, attacking the pawn on d5, bishop f5. And here I guess Sasikiran, okay, he went knight c3, takes, and knight to a5. c3 is slightly weak. I want to maybe take your bishop, but I wouldn't think of doing it very quickly because ab3 strengthens your structure. I might slide in my knight to the c4 square. Bishop d2, knight c4. If you look at this position, you will realize that white has a very strong center. And his plan could well be to go f4, g4 and f5. That seems very logical. On the other hand, black wants to start pushing his queenside pawns and create play against the c3 weakness and try to create play there. Now, it's a battle of ideas right here. And the player who is the superior player should get his way. So that's why this position is interesting. And Sasikiran says, Gukesh, you need to move your bishop. Here, Gukesh could have taken on d2, which was the right option. Queen d2 and played bishop d7 when he's better, because it reminds us of this famous Capablanca game where you bring your bishop back and are planning to play e6 and then just continue your play on this side of the board. But my question to you is, what happens to bishop d5? Why is this a bad move? Well, I hope that you were able to spot the tactic with the loose pieces on the board. LPDO, loose pieces drop off. Knight is hanging and the bishop as well is attacked, and white is lost here. So you can't take, and this could have been better, but Gukesh played bishop d7 first. Sasikiran went back, bishop back, and this is where I thought that, okay, Gukesh will take a draw, because in a way he's doing well in the tournament. He's black. He's playing against Sasikiran, who is a very strong GM. The fighting spirit. This is the thing about these kids. B5. Gukesh is like, let's go. Let's play on. Somewhere, I also feel that maybe Sasikiran could have tried to play on the king side here with f4. But after take, queen a5, attacking c3, rook c1, rook c6, knight f3, rook c8. Somehow, it feels like black is the one who's getting more play before white can even think of going g4 and f5. So knight f3, b5, bishop g5, a5. Now we want to push a4 maybe. So rook c1 was played. Maybe a3 was better, but rook c1, bishop f5, knight h4, bishop e6, knight f3. And now queen d7, knight to h2. Sasikiran somehow wants to push these pawns, so he's playing around. Rook c7, but Gukesh's plan is simple. Get the rooks here, put pressure on c3. h4, h6, bishop back, and now he plays his rook here. Knight to f1, this is a good move, because eventually you want to take and then put your knight on e3. So just think about it this way. If you take and I take with the rook, then knight e3 later attacks the rook, and then maybe I can play h5 or f4, f5 after removing the bishop. So the knight is well placed on e3, and that was what Sasikiran wants to do. Gukesh goes back, attacks the pawn on c3. Sasikiran plays his bishop back, so that now knight e3, maybe later f4, knight c4. And here I was a bit surprised by Sasikiran's reaction. I don't know if Gukesh was keen on a draw after bishop f4. Would he have gone back and they would have agreed to a draw? Most likely not. But it seems like even Shashi became a little bit ambitious here. He took the knight. And after pawn takes, I guess he wanted to go rook b1, maybe then knight g3, h5, f4, stuff like that. But Gukesh very cleverly took with the d pawn. And I like this move because now his bishop has a good square here. Sasikiran says my knight is well placed here, controlling d5. b4, already queenside play has begun. Question to you, what happens to d takes c4? Isn't this a free pawn? If you take back, I'll take on b4. What's the move? c3 is the correct move. It traps the bishop. Well done. So b4, h5, g5 was played, and now came maybe here another interesting move was a4, because you can't take on b4. c3 is coming to trap the bishop, and I want to play b3, and I'm not so affected by this taking back, but a very human reaction is g5, queen f3, queen to b5. And I think Sasikiran should have taken the opportunity to push the pawn, go back bishop d7, and just continue in that flow. Maybe queen e4, maybe d6. And I think white has good enough chances here to equalize. But rook b1 was played. And now black to play. What do you do? It's an important moment in the game. So Gukesh went here rook d7, which is not the most accurate move. He should have played rook to d8. He is playing against d5, but the wrong rook is played. Why? Okay, let's look at rook d7 in the game. If you take on b4, now of course you don't want to take back because then this is hanging. And if you were to take rook d4, then after b takes a5, the queen is attacked. So most likely Gukesh's idea after cb4 was to play c3. Very clearly, if you take on a5, I'll take on d2. You can't take my queen because I'll take your rook. So what was white's plan here? What should white play? The move is bishop c3, rook c3, check. And that's why if you remember, if you had played rook d8 and taken this with the rook, then there was no back rank check here because the rook was still on d8. So rook c3, check. King h7, check, king here, and it's a draw unless you want to play bishop f8. But after b takes a5, okay, white has some decent play in this position. Black is not worse at all, but like queen c6, exchange, and you can play this position. So he played queen e4 here, and now Gukesh found a very powerful move. Can you find it, black to play? So this queen is a very dangerous piece, and if nothing is done, then Sasikiran may want to play f4. So Gukesh plays his queen to b7 and offers a queen trade. It's important, by the way, to not play queen c6, because after takes cb4, even if you play c3, there is rook ec1. And I'm somehow able to survive here. But in the game, if you look at queen b7, after take c3, the rook here is defended, so there is no rook c1. And I think Gukesh is clearly winning here after ab4. So you can't take the queen. You can't take the queen, you have to go back. But then came b3, queen c1, a4. And black has managed to win this game completely because his strategy has succeeded while white has been unable to move his kingside pawns. f3, queen a7, king here, knight g4. Queen a7, the idea could have been a3 to push forward. So knight g4, rook c6, bishop e3, queen a5, a3, f5. He took here. I think good or bad, you should have taken on h6 here and bishop g5. And here's my question to you. What would you play here as black? Well, if you were to take here, then you are in some trouble because after this h6 coming up next, white is in fact winning here. And if you were to play bishop g7, which is another option, then after bishop h6, still the king is quite exposed and white is in the game. But the move that we are looking for is bishop f8. If you found this, kudos, good job. If bishop here to h6, then now I can play my queen back to d8, and I can defend it this way. If you were to give me a check, I can play king h8, and black is going to survive this. f5 he took, but Gukesh took back with the pawn. Knight f2, he put his bishop here, attacking h5, knight e4, f5, knight c5, and now comes the time for an exchange sacrifice. Take on c5, take on c3, very important move. By the way, if you were to take here, then these two pawns are amazingly strong. Also, they are defended. So c6, rook c7, queen d1, he goes back, and now with c3, c2 coming up, Sasikiran resigned the game. What a win for Gukesh. I would say this game just shows how good and how strong Gukesh is. At the same time, his willpower is unbelievable, and this is what makes him such a deadly player. And let's just have a look at few of the things here. First of all, these are the standings in the tournament. Gukesh leading by half a point in this tournament. Is already gaining 16 elo points. His last round opponent today, he is on 7. He is 7.5. He is playing against Haik Martirosyan, so a tough last round for him. Very strong Armenian player that he's facing against, but look at his performance. He's beaten quite a few strong players, and also this is his world ranking now. Gukesh is ranked number 64 there. You can see he's moving up the ranks to 2675, and he is now very close on Arjun's heels, who is on 2680 on number 57. So all these youngsters of India are pushing each other to keep on improving, keep on playing, keep on gaining rating. No one is taking any rest, and so this is, I would say, a very good thing in many ways. And I hope that Gukesh is able to win this first Chessable Sunway Formentera Open. We will look at what happens in the last round. For now, this is Sagar Shah signing off. Bye bye. Well, after I completed the video, the final round had just been completed of the tournament, and Gukesh drew his game against Haik Martirosyan, and the second game against Jamie Santos Latasa and Shant Sargsyan also ended in a draw, which means Gukesh has won the Chessable Sunway Formentera Open. I thought it would be nice to add this at the end and publish this video. So a huge congratulations for Gukesh.